Artcadets, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to do some more stone painting, but this time we are going to make it into a collage. So I've got some smaller stones here, 5 in total, and I've got a small canvas board to put them on. So we're going to be gluing them on that, and we're going to be doing a bit of a background as well. So if you're ready, let's go. So to start this collage then, I first painted my canvas, and this is a 7x5 canvas by Winsor & Newton, but you can get them from supermarkets, little art shops, Hobbycraft, and they can be as cheap as £1 or £2. So this one was already primed, which meant that I could start painting straight on top of it, and I used acrylic paint for this. So I thought I would do a sky and add some clouds for the background. And this is the first time I've actually used a canvas, so it was a good learning experience for me too. But the paint went on quite smoothly and dried quite quickly as well. So once that was done, I left it to dry while I painted the stones. Now I got 5 stones, as I said, but actually only ended up using 4 of them. But when you're doing things like this, it's always good to have a spare. So sneaky trick with this, I learnt that if I put a small bit of blue tack underneath the pebble, because it was quite small, it was wobbling around all over the place and I didn't want to get my fingerprints in. So by putting that blue tack underneath, it kind of held it firm, which allowed me to put the acrylic yellow paint on. So I allowed these to dry and did a couple of coats, because as I've said in the past, the yellow, sometimes you can see the colour of the pebble underneath. So to get it nice and bright, I used 2 coats. Now for the last pebble, I went with a different colour, and you'll see why later, and I went with a purple. So once these are thoroughly dry, and it was a nice day outside, so we just put them in the garden, made sure they were good and dry before we added the stripes. Now you can probably tell that they're going to be little bumblebees, and I've also changed to a very fine paintbrush. But oh, I didn't use my blue tack there, did I? But it was a little bit tricky just to get those stripes, but they're not perfect, but they are handmade, so I think we'll let ourselves off there. And I've just touched up some of the sides of the stones, because when we put it on our canvas, we don't want anything to show of the stone. So I've done them roughly the same. Obviously, because they are quite fiddly, they're not exactly the same, but that's okay. And again, this is black acrylic paint I'm using. And if you haven't got a fine paintbrush, or your hands are a bit shaky or a bit worried about doing it, then you could use a black Sharpie. Maybe I ought to do that next time. But by doing one extra, it gave me the choice of which of the bumblebees I wanted to choose, and which were the best of 3 to go with. And for the last one, I added, I don't know if you can see in here actually, there was a bit of glitter added to the purple paint, just to make this one a bit different. now I've gone in with my Sharpie just to tidy up those lines because I wasn't 100% happy with them, and so yeah, I tidied them up a little bit, and then I added to each of the bees just a little dot for their eyes. And I decided to make the purple bumblebee have a little wink instead of just a regular eye. Now then, this is the bit that was an experiment, and I had an idea in my head of how I wanted the writing or the slogan to look. So when I've done watercolour before, I've been able to do a sort of a brush technique, and I thought this was a really good idea. So the idea was to put masking fluid down and then white acrylic paint over that, so that when I pulled the masking tape off, it would leave the Be Unique slogan in a paler colour. However, although at this point I thought there was still a chance that it could turn out okay, it didn't really work, and I wasn't really that happy with it because it was harder to write on the canvas than I thought, and I think basically I thought it just looked a bit amateurish, and I wasn't happy with that. But I carried on nonetheless and waited for it to dry, rubbed off the masking fluid, and thought, well, maybe it'll be okay once I add the little bees, and I'll just touch up some of the bits that aren't so neat with more acrylic paint. So I don't like to give up on things, and I was quite pleased with how the bees turned out, but this writing did kind of bother me. It's okay, but it wasn't quite how I imagined it was going to turn out. So I try adding a few more clouds, see if that makes it look better. But nah. So anyway, I glued the bee pebbles onto the canvas, and I used a glue gun because this sets really hard, and I wanted something that would so the bees wouldn't drop off. And then I added, with a fine liner, some little wings and a little antenna, but I didn't like it, so if you don't like it, change it. So what I did was I painted over the slogan that I'd done and had a bit of a think about what style of writing I wanted, and I thought I'll simplify it and use my black Sharpie, which is what I did. And hey presto, I was a lot happier with that, and I think you'll agree it looks a bit more professional. And there we have it, all done. Well, that's all for today, Arcadets. I hope you enjoyed today's video making a collage out of stones. If you have, then don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next week for another stone painting collage. Bye!